All right, guys, we are back again with another What You Need to Know. This time we're talking the great state of Nevada, which is our home state here at GOHUNT. I'm going to run you through everything that you need to know to apply. I'm going to talk about the draw system. I'm going to talk about the application start and end deadline. I'm going to talk about some of the nuances of their draw system and how it works, and hopefully give you guys everything that you would need to know to decide if you want to apply in Nevada, and then hopefully if you do, help you make the best choice possible so that you can draw a tag and get a chance to hunt Nevada this year. So with that, I'm just going to dive right in. So first and foremost, what are the application date and deadline? So the application time frame is already open for the state of Nevada. You can apply starting March 24th, so you can get in right now if you want to and get your application in the state of Nevada. The deadline is going to be May 7th at 11 p.m. Pacific time. So you got to remember, Nevada's on Pacific time, so you want to make sure that you're aware of that 11 p.m. deadline and get your application prior to that May 7th time frame. So those are your dates. Like I said, right now is a great time to apply. You don't want to leave it too long, because you don't want to forget and miss applying in Nevada. Next question I get is, when are your draw results available? So Nevada's pretty quick about turning over their draw. Your draw results are going to be available by May 23rd. So you've got that deadline of the 7th of May. They're going to turn that around in just a few weeks, and you're going to have your results typically on or before May 23rd this year. Nevada requires you to apply online, which is actually the easiest in my opinion. You do have to set up an account. You're going to log in, add your information, and you're going to go ahead and apply online. All the fees required to apply can be done online, and in my opinion, that's the easiest way to do it. Just go ahead and set yourself up an account and plan on applying online. Actually, in my opinion, Nevada has one of the more user-friendly application online processes. You can even look back as to what hunts you applied for in previous years. They even have a tab where you can click and apply for the same hunts that you did last year, or you can change those. One of the most common questions I get is, can you withdraw or modify your application? And Nevada is really good about that. They do allow you to log into your account and change your hunts. You can do that up until the deadline. So if you have some new information that comes in, you want to pick some different hunts, you want to change your choices, they make it really easy for you to do so. So be aware of that. You can always play with it right up until the deadline. I'm going to jump into probably one of the most commonly asked questions I get is, how much is it to apply? What do I have to purchase to apply? So Nevada is one of those states that they do not require you to pay for the permits that you apply for up front, but they do require you to buy a hunting license if you want to build bonus points. So that's a big if, and I'm going to tell you why I said that. So if you want to apply in Nevada and build bonus points, you're going to have to buy a $156 hunting license. You're going to have to pay the application fee per species that you apply for. That application fee is going to be $14 for deer, antelope, bighorn sheep. It's going to be $19, so it's a little bit extra if you want to apply for elk. And if you are unsuccessful in your draw, you're going to get bonus points. And I'm going to dive into how their draw system works. But the reason I said if is because you can actually apply in Nevada without paying that $156 hunting license fee, and you actually will be entered in the draw. You'll get a chance to draw, and you do have to purchase it if you're successful in drawing one of your choices after the fact, but you don't have to pay that $156 every single year. So that's something you might want to consider. I'm going to talk more about why you might want to build bonus points in Nevada, because they are going to increase your odds here in a second, but think about that. If you just don't have the funds, you just want to apply in Nevada, you can do that without buying the hunting license every single year. So that's something to be aware of. Next common question I get is about the Nevada draw system. So Nevada is a bonus point state. It is a random draw, completely random. They don't give any portion of the permits to people with the most points that apply. It is a random draw, but the more bonus points you have, the better your odds get. Now what Nevada does is they're actually going to square the number of bonus points that you have. So for example, if I apply and I have 8 points, they're going to square that to 64, and they're going to add one for that year's application, meaning that I would have 65 chances going into that draw to generate a low random number, have my application selected, and then potentially draw a permit depending on what my choices are. So it's pretty important to you in the long term, if you want to draw tags in Nevada, to pay that $156 hunting license fee and continue to build bonus points year over year, because they do increase your chances of drawing. A common question I get is how many permits are actually allocated to non-residents. So Nevada has a 90-10 split, meaning that 90% of the permits are going to go to residents. The other 10% are going to go to non-residents. It's an approximate number, but it's generally kind of where it lands. Nevada also does a great job. If you look in their regulations, their application booklet, they're going to actually break down and tell you the units that non-residents can apply for. So I think they do a good job. It's worth taking a peek at before you actually apply. You can also use your insider account to look at the historical data. You can see how many permits were allocated. So it's definitely worthwhile diving into the details and trying to figure out what units have permits and how many before you actually apply. The next thing that is unique about Nevada's draw system is that they will allow you to include 5 hunt choices when you apply. And they are going to evaluate each one of your choices before they move to the next applicant. So what that means is you could draw any of your first 5 choices. You're going to get a random number attached to your application. They're going to start with the lowest generated random number, and they're going to pull that application and they're going to try to allocate the first choice of that applicant. And then if there are not any permits available, they're going to go to your second choice, try to allocate that choice. If there's no permits available, they'll move to your third choice, so on and so forth. So you actually have the potential of drawing any of your first 5 choices. Now, if you draw any of your first 5 choices, they are going to purge your bonus points. You're going to go back to 0. But it is a unique system in that it allows you to kind of tailor your application for you. You can mix and match. You could apply for an archery elk hunt as your first choice. You could apply for a late rifle hunt as your 5th choice if you wanted. You can kind of mix and match depending on what you want to do. Now, there is some strategy involved in how you apply in a state like Nevada. Typically, what you want to do is you want to include the best hunt, lowest odds as your first choice and stagger that towards your 5th choice as a better hunt, like a good hunt, but has better odds as your 5th choice. So the reason you want to stagger your hunts that way when you apply is that if you get a really low number and your application is one of the first off the pile that's considered, you want to draw the best possible tag that you can. And then your 5th choice, like I said, you want to apply for a hunt that you would live with, though it's a decent tag, but it has better odds. That's why odds and reviewing draw odds within your insider account is super important when you apply in a state like Nevada, because you don't want to apply for an easy to draw tag as your first choice when you may get a really low random number in the draw and you could have drawn, potentially the best tag in the state. So you really want to review draw odds, spend a lot of time in there looking around, and like I said, there is some strategy on how you apply. You want to apply for the best hunt as your first choice. Decent hunt is your 5th choice, better odds as you get further down in your choices. So be aware of that. Another common question that I get is, can you party app or apply as a group in the state of Nevada? And you can, but not for all species. So the only species that you can apply for as a party are mule deer, antlerless elk, cow elk, and antelope with horns shorter than the ear. So basically doe antelope. So those are the only 3 species that you can apply for as a party. I get asked the question, how do party applications handle bonus points? So basically what they're going to do is they're going to average the group's points and they're going to round to the nearest whole number. Then they're going to square those, add 1 for that year's application, and that's the number of bonus points or chances that that group application will go into the draw with. Nevada is a state that will not over allocate permits to satisfy a group. So when your group application is pulled, it's considered one application, and they're going to try to allocate everybody in that group permits, but there has to be enough to satisfy the size of the group. They won't over allocate it. Going along with that, non-residents and residents can apply in Nevada as a group application, but those permits are going to come out of the separate piles. So the non-resident permits in that group application are going to come out of the non-resident pool of permits. And again, there has to be enough permits available to satisfy the size of the group. So there is the potential that you could increase your chances if you're party apping with somebody who has a lot of bonus points. You could bump yours up potentially. You do have a slight negative impact potentially, because there may not be quite as many permits to satisfy and fill the number of group applicants on your application. So you want to be aware of that. kind of be aware of the pros and cons and decide if a group application is for you. Typically, I would say as a non-resident, your chances are pretty low of drawing most permits in the state. So applying as a group in most cases is not going to improve your odds. I would probably encourage you to apply as a solo applicant, but be aware of how that works and think about it. Put some planning and strategy in place before you actually jump in and decide to apply as a group. Another common question I get is, can you actually return a permit if you draw it in Nevada and get your points back? And you can. So typically after the draw results are released, you will have up to a week where you can return that online. And you actually are going to be given your bonus points back +1 for that year. Elk, deer, and antelope, you can also return that permit up until 1 day prior to your hunt and get your points reinstated. Now, if you drew a sheep tag or a mountain goat tag, you do have to return that by July 15th, I believe. So deer, elk, antelope, you can return that the week that you drew it, or you can actually return it up until the day that your hunt starts. But if you drew a sheep tag or a mountain goat tag, you do have to return that by that midsummer time frame if you want to have your points reinstated and get a point back for that year. So be aware of it. It is one of those states that you can return a tag. In my opinion, if you're a non-resident and you draw a tag in Nevada, you should go hunting, because the odds of drawing a tag are so tough that I would consider it a great opportunity. I would take that tag in Nevada every time and I would go hunting. So if you have to move your schedule around, if you have to maybe return a permit in another state that you drew, I think Nevada is a state where you want to really think hard about hunting the permit if you drew it. So be aware of that. One other thing to note in regards to returning a permit, if you applied as a group and you drew permits as a group, if you want to return a permit, every person on that group application has to return their permits in order to have their points reinstated. So be aware of that if you apply as a group. That's just one other little detail that you want to be aware of if you think you might want to return your permit. Another question I often get asked about is waiting periods in Nevada. So Nevada does have waiting periods if you've drawn some of the permits. So if you draw an elk tag, for example, and you hunted that permit, whether successful or not, you have a 7-year waiting period before you can actually reapply. Antelope, there's a 3-year waiting period. If you draw a deer tag, there's no waiting period, but you want to be aware if you draw some of those permits, you're going to be on a waiting period. For example, I drew an antelope tag a few years ago in the state of Nevada. I hunted that. It was an archery permit, filled my permit, so I've been on a waiting period. I'm finally back off that waiting period so I can start applying for antelope again in the state of Nevada. So it's a common question I get asked. It's a little bit extreme. It might seem for some of the species like elk, which is 7 years. But in reality, I think it's a good thing because it allows other people to progress through the system, build up points, draw permits, and get out of it. It just increases people's odds over time. Another thing that is unique about Nevada that I should note is the first come, first served list. So these are permits that people have drawn and they want to return back, and how they're going to allocate those. So Nevada does have an alternate list, and when you apply, you should actually push the little button that says alternate, meaning that you will be considered an alternate if somebody returns a permit. And if you're high enough in the list, they will call you, get a hold of you, and ask you if you want to take that permit and go on that hunt. Again, I would tell you Nevada is a great quality hunting state. So if you apply in Nevada, I would select that alternate option to be an alternate, meaning that if somebody turns a permit, they consider you get a permit. I've known guys that have pushed that button, they've received that call from NDOW, and they've actually gotten a chance to go out and go hunting. The other question I get is about first come, first serve. Now, Nevada does this pretty uniquely. So if you return a permit in the state of Nevada, and it goes to the first come, first served lists, which is going to come out midsummer, and it's actually going to trickle all the way up through the hunts. What they do is they actually take those and they randomly put those online on their website, and it might be anywhere between 3 a.m. and 9 p.m. They just randomly pop those up on their website. So you have to be on the browser watching that list to see if something pops up. Now there is one little detail about it. It didn't used to be this way, but this is the way that it is now. And if a non-resident returns a permit, a non-resident can purchase that permit. If a resident returns a permit, a resident of Nevada can purchase that permit. It used to be that it was kind of free for all. Anybody could kind of purchase, but now it does have to be returned by a non-resident to then be purchased by a non-resident. Now every year I know somebody that picks up a permit. I talked to a guy a couple of years ago that picked up an elk tag. He was a non-resident, saw one pop up on that list randomly, and was able to purchase that permit, add it to his cart, and go hunting, and had a great hunt, killed a great bull. Now you do have to be in front of your computer a lot. You have to really be looking at it and watching it, but if that is something that entices you, it's definitely an opportunity. It's unique to Nevada. They do it that way. I don't know of any other state that does it that way. Maybe it's the gaming culture in Nevada, just that random chance that you might be online and you see a tag pop up and get a chance to add it to your cart, but it is unique and it is kind of an interesting option of maybe picking up a great permit in Nevada. So those are the most commonly asked questions that I get about Nevada's draw system. What I think you need to know is within the details I just laid out for you on the table. I am going to close out with one that I think is probably the most common question I get. Should non-residents apply in the state of Nevada? Is it worth it? So the reason I think people ask this question is they look at the draw odds. And if you look at all species, whether it's elk, bighorn sheep, mountain goat, all the different species that are available in Utah, elk, the draw odds are pretty low for non-residents for most of the hunts, especially if you're a rifle hunter. Those odds can be pretty stiff. And the cost to apply and build points, you're going to be $156 plus the application fees. If you apply for all species in Nevada as a non-resident, you're going to be in that $240, maybe $250 range every single year. The odds are pretty low of drawing, so should you even actually apply? My opinion, I think you should. I think it's worthwhile, especially if you're a bow hunter, or if you're a hunter that's willing to accept and hunt units that aren't those premier top trophy units that are managed for an exceptional experience. It might take you a number of years to draw a tag, but I've actually had pretty good luck. So I've drawn an antelope tag, I've drawn 2 deer tags, I've built up a bunch of elk points, a bunch of bighorn sheep points. I don't know if I'll ever draw those in my lifetime, but the thing I like about it is that I've always got a chance. My chances do increase year over year with that bonus point system. And then the way that Nevada manages their wildlife, if you do draw a tag, you're in for a really quality experience. Arguably, they have probably the best trophy potential in the West. I would put it right up there with Arizona, Utah. People that draw elk tags in Nevada have phenomenal hunts. Typically really good rut hunts for quality bulls. They've got some late season hunts. I think Nevada is a great elk state. The reason that the odds are so long is that they manage for quality and they just do not have the populations that other states have. It's a super dry state. They don't have a ton of elk habitat. They don't have a ton of, traditional mule deer, high country habitat, and then that good winter range to really sustain and grow those herds. But what they do offer is quality hunting for the people that draw permits. So in my opinion, if you can justify that hunting license costs, the application fees, I think it's worth applying. It's kind of like the dream state for me. If I ever drew an elk tag in Nevada, I know I would be in for a phenomenal hunt. So for me, it keeps me engaged. I would say, look at your finances, look at the economics of it, look at the draw odds, make a comparison year over year in the long term and see if it makes sense for you. For me, it does, and I would suggest that you dig in, you do the research, and plan on playing in Nevada. It's a great state. It's our home state here at GOHUNT. So with that, if you got other questions that I missed, I would love it if you drop them in the comments below. Try to get back to you and answer those questions. I would love it if you would like and subscribe to the channel. Helps us grow, helps us put more information out. Hopefully you guys find this helpful. And finally, good luck. Good luck in Nevada this year. Hope you guys draw some phenomenal tags.